Good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Amitha Balachandra. There's a very interesting topic that we're going to pick up today, and that is on the 4-day work week idea. Now, this is what's happened. Let me give you a brief update. India is now considering a 4-day work week with longer shifts. So basically, the Union Ministry of Labor and Employment is working on new labor codes, which will make way for a 3-day weekend, but will keep the working hours at 48 hours a week, which means that employees then might be subject to longer days, which is 12-hour shift, as opposed to an 8-hour shift, which is currently what is allowed. So according to the labor standards, this is what is allowed, right? The general standard is 48-hour regular hours of work per week with a maximum of 8 hours per day, which means that for 6 days you're working 8 hours per day. But if it becomes a 4-day work week, then you're working for 12 hours per day. And this is, of course, voluntary. And companies will be able to choose as in however they want to. And employees will also be given an option, is what we understand. But we're going to find out today whether India Inc. is ready for a 4-day work week, first of all. Will it work better than what's already there? How does it work with the work from home situation? And what apprehensions not just employees, but also employers have at this point in time? And to talk about that, I have with me Aditya Mishra, who's the director and CEO of Ciel HR Services. So he brings in the employer's perspective. And for viewers who are watching, if you have any questions at all about this idea, and perhaps what could perhaps be allowed by the Indian government, think that this will work at all. And if you have any questions, we'll take it up during the show. But Aditya, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time. My first question is this: whether companies are currently prepared for a 4-day work week? Do you believe that that will work?
Thanks, Amitha, for having me for on this show. I think, yeah, it's not that employers are already ready for it. It's going to they have to do a lot of work around to kind of figure out how do they convert the 8-hour shifts to 12-hour shifts if they at all want to do it. And some employees might want to do it while some of them might not. So whether it's a decision whether the employers need to take, whether they would like to offer this flexibility to their employees, some of them to work for 8 hours and some of them for 12 hours. Because the law, the proposed law does not very clearly mandate anything.
Okay, so you're saying that employers are not perhaps or
Ready yet?
ready yet. And how does it work with the work from home situation? Because right now a lot of employees say, and this is one of the criticisms, that you're having to work around the clock. There is hardly any break.
Yeah, if you really see the white collar employees, the people who are in managerial roles, this 4-day week is not really going to help them a lot because they're anyway work fills the entire day, and there is very less distinction between work and home because you are working out of home. Some people say that we are working for home and all of that. So it's not going to help them with the work from home situation. Where it is going to help is it's going to bring in a lot of flexibility to the employers and some to employees. Uh, so, for example, there is someone who's very passionate about pursuing a particular hobby, maybe singing, maybe dancing, maybe photography, maybe something else. So, if someone is really committed to that hobby, then you have a passion and you get a 4-hour, 4-day work week and 48 hours, then you are able to really switch off and you get a 3-day time to do something. For example, somebody is doing a book project, is writing a book. So for that person, it's a great thing because it allows 3 days at a stretch, a kind of a long weekend. So that's good for those kind of employees. But how many such employees are there out of the crores of people who work in India? Very small. Now, the second point is about how it is going to help the employers. You know, currently, um, if you are asking somebody to stretch beyond 8 hours, you are expected to give overtime. So the and for overtime hours, you need to. There are restrictions about the number of overtime hours one employee can do, and then there is a extra payment that the organization have to make for the extra number of hours at a higher rate than the usual rate. So imagine a retail company or a retail outlet, or imagine a restaurant, a hospitality industry, entertainment industry. So for them, if it is a 12-hour work day, it's going to help the company for sure, because they can roster their people in such a way that people come in for four days and they work for 12 hours and then leave. But then it creates another dimension, which I think some research has been done, but nothing has been conclusively proven, because both sides of research is there about the health and safety. What's the amount of concentration that an employee can give if the number of hours are too long. There is a research in the US which was conducted some time ago, and it showed that actually 8 hours shift, but people work hardly for 3 hours effectively.
Okay.
There is so much of
So the number of hours really doesn't make sense, you're saying, because the productivity comes in only for 3 to 4 hours.
yeah, that one research has shown. And
Okay.
then depending upon the kind of work that you do, imagine that you are working in a shop floor, in a production facility, you have to move heavy items. So yeah, there are certain amount of breaks that are need to be given for them, for the physical and the motor skills to be in place. But will everybody be able to really put in that 12 hours of work even if you are giving
Mm,
breaks? It's
mm.
easy for the company to create a roster of 12 hours, but will they be able to do it? We need to really
So,
see.
is implementation then going to be a challenge? Because already the fact is that if it's 48 hours, then it should ideally be 8 hours a day for 6 days. But a lot of people in the chat window right now are talking about how they're already working for 12 hours a day. So will companies be able to implement this at all then?
I think
Or
it's
follow the rules, because that's a major problem right now. One of the criticisms is that most companies don't follow the rules.
yeah. See, for the as I said, for the white collar jobs, for example, if somebody is working in the IT industry, uh, it's a white collar job. People are working. I think even if it's a 8 hour or 9 hour day and 2 days weekly off, but some people, based on the workload, many people end up working for 12 hours or more. So for
Yeah.
them, it's not going to really help. Even if you give them a 3 day long weekend and say that 12 hours, depending upon every individual context, it may work or it may not work. So I think on an overall basis for the IT or the white collar jobs, it's not really going to make a big difference.
Hmm.
However, like I said, for retail, for hospitality, for entertainment, this is going to help the companies a lot, because OT payment is not going to be, I mean, the overtime rules and the money that the company spends is going to change.
I also want to ask you this, and one of the things that a lot of people in the chat window again are saying, and I encourage viewers to ask as many questions as possible, is that work efficiency is already slow, and putting in longer hours doesn't necessarily mean that you're being that productive. Do you believe that efficiency will also go down if it's longer hours?
Yeah, absolutely. It will, unless you sort of think of different ways, like giving certain kind of breaks. We all know about like some work culture where people are asking for certain little longer breaks, even
Hmm.
sleep at the lunchtime. There are so many
Hmm.
factories in different parts of the world. They are trying to practice this. So I think, yeah, that's why I said research has not conclusively shown. Once
Hmm.
we start practicing it, we will know. But in general, it has been observed that long work hours do not mean long productivity. because your attention, your concentration, your focus dilutes as you work for longer and longer hours.
Or is there any sort of survey that's being done currently, or are companies beginning to talk to employees? And in your conversations with companies, what are they saying? Because you said, first of all, that they may not be ready for this first. What are employees saying? Would people prefer a 4-day work week as compared to a 5-day or a 6-day work week with longer breaks?
I think broadly employers will be happy about it in certain industry sectors because of overtime rates that I explained. The cost would not be there. So employers are going to be happy because they can do rostering. They are fine. However, employees, there is a mixed opinion because the white collar employees, as many of them are saying, hey, already I'm working for 12 hours a day.
Mm,
Uh, However, the other opinion is that hey, I get a 3-day weekend, long weekend. So I can genuinely, tell my manager that hey, don't give me work for these 3 days. Uh,
mm.
so more employees would be happy about it, I guess.
So you can probably take like a longer time off with your family and friends. But I also want to ask you, there was a survey that was conducted in 2020 which showed that employees feel that this will take at least 5 years for companies to actually begin implementing. Do you believe that it's going to take some time while the discussion is started only now?
No, I don't think it's going to take 5 years because in the pandemic time, we saw manufacturing industry in many states of India actually
Mm,
shifted to 12-hour shifts. And
mm,
the labor officers actually permitted them to do 12 hours shift, though they had 8-hour shift. They actually shifted to 12 hours because they were incurring heavy expenditure on sanitization and employee transportation and many other things. So there have been many experiments in the last few months
mm.
which have run successfully actually with 12-hour shifts. So it has worked well for them. However, every organization hasn't tried it. So they need to try and see and find their own rhythm. 5 years is too long. I think it will take just about 6 to 12 months of time for
Okay.
a new equilibrium to be established. But my major concern stays about the employee productivity. You can implement 12-hour work in a manufacturing plant. Maybe it is easier to monitor productivity, but in a white collar job, productivity is not very easy to monitor. So it kind of tapers off after a period of time due to attention and concentration. So that the employers are going to really be worried about.
All right. So a couple of challenges or apprehensions that you said, and I want to go a couple of things once. Basically, you said that the biggest concern that you have, and perhaps a lot of employers also have, is productivity with longer shifts, whether people will actually be productive, and especially when working from home. You also said that it may not make sense for all kinds of work profiles, and we really have to see how it's going to be implemented because you think that it's going to take about 6 to 12 months and not over 5 years. And we'll really have to see how whether everybody is on board, whether companies will actually make sure that it's just those 12 hours and not overtime as well. So there are concerns, but we really have to see how this will be implemented. But India is currently considering the 4-day work week with longer shifts, though. So tell us what you think about it as well in the comments. But Aditya, thank you so much for giving us your time. And for viewers who are watching, thank you for watching.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me in your show. Thank you.